get so caught up in the moment. History we cannot hide.
Recorded live from the engine room at Broad Ripple, this is the Voices of Indy podcast hosted by Josh Gillespie. Voices of Indy is a show dedicated to giving you the opportunity to know the musical, visual, and theatrical arts of Indianapolis, Indiana. Today's show is sponsored by Indianapolis Independent Entertainment. IIE LLC aims to help local DIY artists, freelancers, and businesses within Indianapolis by establishing a network of creatives who can connect with each other to generate more paying opportunities. Their goal is to eliminate some of the intimidating barriers within the entertainment industry and expand the local art and music scenes in Indianapolis. Interested individuals can learn more about IIE by visiting their website, www.indyent.com. That's INDYINDIEENT.com, and fill out a free application to discuss how you and IIE can redefine making it together. In this week's guest, I'm very pleased to have, because I've actually performed with this particular guest. His name is Rollo Brand. He's a singer-songwriter from seemingly everywhere,
Yeah.
but he is currently hanging his hat in Indianapolis. Rollo, thank you for being here.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. For those who may not know who you are, I know that you've been doing a weekly show at the Red Cafe.
The Red Door Cafe.
Red Door
That's,
Cafe, yes.
at the corner of East and New York in downtown Indianapolis. We play 10 a.m. on Sunday mornings, featuring local songwriters and performers.
Awesome. So what should people know about Rollo Brand, the person and the musician?
Well,
Where do we start? Let's start off with this way. What brought you to Indianapolis?
I came to Indianapolis because the rent was cheap.
That's a good reason.
I was living in Atlanta before I lived here, and I just wasn't really able to find enough creative work to be able to sustain staying there. And when I was looking at places to stay, I saw the population here was like just under 1 million, and that you could get a like a duplex for $650 a month.
Yeah, no,
So
exactly.
it seemed like the kind of place that a lot of creative people could live and actually focus on their art, as opposed to just working full time the way they'd have to in New York or LA or Atlanta.
Or Atlanta. I was going to say, I mean, talk about creative opportunities. I mean, Atlanta, that seems to be where a lot of entertainment action seems to be taking place. So, I mean, to move from a place like Atlanta to Indianapolis would probably jar some people and being like, that doesn't seem like that would make sense, because it seems like there's a lot of creativity going on in Atlanta. But that wasn't your experience.
There's definitely a lot of creativity going on. I think I only stayed there for 2 months, so I didn't.
Okay.
It was a pretty quick stay.
Sure.
And what it seemed to be was people had all their bases covered with the work they needed done.
Gotcha.
So there is a ton of great music coming out of Atlanta. It was just hard to break into.
Yeah, no, exactly. So what has your experience in Indianapolis been like? As compared to, say, Atlanta or other places where you've lived?
When I was in Atlanta, it was after the pandemic. It was
really?
post-pandemic.
Okay.
So talking to people there, it seemed like that city had changed pretty drastically from before.
Oh, really?
And my experience was it was very slow. And Indianapolis has kind of a similar pace right now as Atlanta did when I was there.
Okay.
So that's pretty similar. It's just quite a bit denser. And I think people get a little worn out of other people when they're in a place that's that tightly packed.
Sure, yeah.
So Indianapolis is a lot easier to make friends in.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's
just
cool.
find other people who make art. It's easier to talk to people. They're not like just trying to get home and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I have kind of, my background hasn't necessarily been primarily in, art and music.
Right.
And I mean, I've played for a long time, but I've never actually engaged in the community so much. But since my engagement has really kind of taken off, especially with the podcast, it's actually been really kind of amazing to see how warm and engaging and welcoming.
Yeah, people are very open and very welcoming here.
Yeah, which is, I think, for the reputation that I think probably Indianapolis probably has among some people, that it seems to be a bit of a surprise when people say that.
Yeah.
And I say, don't let politics get in the way. It's Indianapolis is a great city that has a lot going on, in my experience. And granted, I mean, I'm a homer. I've lived here most of my life. So
yeah, I mean, I don't mean to upset the homers, but
No.
I had never heard about anything in Indianapolis before I moved here.
Really?
Yeah, didn't know anybody. Had no idea what was going on. I just kind of looked at some stats and I went, that looks like a good place to be.
That is amazing. I can't imagine.
Big city with cheap rent.
Well, it truly was what brought you here.
Yeah.
Well, it is. It's a very inexpensive place to live, and it's easy to get around.
Mm-hmm.
Although, which is funny because it's kind of spread out, but it's also, it's not densely populated like Atlanta is, but it is densely put together, so that it's very easy to get around.
Right.
At least that's my experience since moving downtown.
Sure, the commute's not too bad.
No, the commute is not too bad at all. So let's talk about Rollo Brand, the musician.
Okay.
And what would you say? I called you a singer-songwriter. But would you say that is your particular genre? Because I've listened to your stuff, and it's, you're kind of all over the map. I mean, I don't think you can be pigeonholed into one particular area.
As far as recording goes, and that's what I spend the most time on. I think I'm more of a producer arranger.
Okay.
And that's kind of where my songs start.
Okay.
I don't usually write on acoustic guitar. I'm usually making beats and singing and kind of trying to match lyrics to different sonic textures. And then when it comes time to perform them, I want to have different versions, so I work up an acoustic version of all these songs.
Really?
Yeah. It really helps with the acoustic guitar parts, too, because using loops and samples, there are a lot of notes and rhythms you wouldn't have if you were just writing on guitar.
Sure.
But figuring out how to marry those ideas to like an acoustic performance, it ends up sounding really different than if it was written acoustically.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So let's talk about your experience in producing and arranging. You work with a lot of different artists, not just producing. I presume you produce your own music as well.
Yeah, all my music's self-produced.
So, what has it been? How do you draw people to you as a producer? And because it seems as if you're working with a number of different people.
Yeah.
So I guess, just from what's the insider's perspective? How do you draw people to you? Because especially if you didn't know anybody coming into Indianapolis, and what is it like to put on the producer's hat when you're working with someone else, as opposed to just working on your own music?
Well, I guess the way I draw people to me is just I compliment the stuff I genuinely like. And then whatever people decide to do with that, if they just keep the compliment to themselves or decide to start a conversation and figure out what it is I do, it's kind of the way it's developed. Yeah, it's not really possible to do a production if you don't like the material.
No,
and I'm not really doing any writing for these artists. They've got their material together. So...
Well,
yeah,
you brought someone with you tonight.
We've got Jade Davidson in the studio tonight.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about Jade and the work that you're doing with her.
Jade's a singer-songwriter who I met right after I moved here, and a great guitarist and great vocalist. And it was exactly like that. I just really like her material, and let her know. And I guess it's been a little under a year, and we've got about 10 songs in progress.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow. When are you looking to see the fruition of all the work there?
We're putting the finishing touches on a single right now. That's what we were doing today before we came here.
Oh, cool.
We're not sure what this material is for, if it's for an album or an EP or a bunch of singles. So there's a lot to figure out before we know a time frame.
Sure. So when you're producing with people, do you actually kind of also go through a release strategy with them in how to, do you want to do this as an album, or do you want to do this as an EP, or do you want to do singles or a waterfall release, or I mean, all
Yeah, I do. Because that's part of trying to understand how people are going to experience what we're working on is part of figuring out what decisions to make while we're working on it. You know, if a guitar needs to be like more in the foreground or more in the background, maybe the subtle one is good on an album, and maybe the one in the foreground is makes more sense for a single because it grabs you a little faster.
Okay. No, I see how I'm following with you. That's interesting. Now you also work with, I believe, and correct me if I get her name incorrect.
Okay.
Adora.
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, Flowers for Ramona for the
that's
for the folks at home.
Yes. Flowers for Ramona. Tell me about your work with her. I know that you've been also doing a bunch of shows with her. So, what's your work been like with her?
I think I'll start with what the work's been like with Jade.
Oh, yes. Let's start there first.
A lot of what we've been doing is based on songs that she has written and arranged herself for guitar and has been performing for a long time. She also is a talented producer who makes beats and does some mixing, and she does a lot of work on her own.
Does that how does that interaction work when you have one person who is actually kind of knowledgeable on the production side working with you to make an album? Or make music in general, but it
depends on the piece she brings in. Because if it's a guitar piece, I just try to make the setting that we're recording in as inviting as possible to whatever the mood of the song is.
Gotcha.
And then if it's a song she's arranged at home, kind of in her workstation, that's just kind of trying to stay out of the way and figure out what it needs to
gotcha
to sound finished.
So she can come in with a nearly finalized product for you. You're just kind of cleaning up the edges,
right? Exactly.
Oh, okay.
It's not really mixing. It's more of just tying things together.
Yeah. No, I'm picking up what you're putting down there.
Okay.
It's just kind of fun to see that, talk to producers, different
right.
producers, and how they go about their process.
So then Adora is pretty different from that.
Okay.
Because she's a really talented bass player. And
really?
She'll record herself jamming with other musicians, and then she writes to those jams.
No way.
Yeah.
That's kind of wild.
That's just one of the ways that she comes up with material. But she's bringing things in that are sometimes recorded in a completely different style than sometimes than what I'm equipped to do.
Oh, really?
The studio I'm working out of is just at home, and I can do everything except live drums.
Okay.
And what she's bringing in is specifically her playing with live drummers.
Yeah, no.
So we're trying to figure out ways to make productions that sound finished, but not like what she recorded as the demo.
Yeah.
A lot of drum machines and
I was going to say
loud guitars and
yeah. Do you use drum machines on your recordings as well?
All of my recordings are drum machines. I've never had a drummer on anything I've released.
Okay. Actually, you do a really good job managing those.
Yeah.
Because
technology has gotten pretty good. It's not the same, but you can make great music with everything that's out there.
No, yeah.
There's nothing that replaces a live drummer. But,
no. But I was going to say, I mean, listening to your stuff, I can tell that I can't necessarily tell that you have a non-live drummer.
Yeah.
That, I mean, you've produced them so well that it kind of still feels very much like, like it's a normal recording session.
Well, the first professional band I was in, I started out as a guitarist in cover bands. And the guy who kind of put me in a lot of those situations was a phenomenal drummer. He had a jazz background, and he was the road drummer for Dickie Betts and Great Southern, which is kind of a local band where I grew up in the Gulf Coast of Florida.
Yeah, I've heard of Dickie Betts, though. Yeah.
So his road drummer is the one who got me into performing.
That's awesome.
And because I played so many gigs with him, and he was such a meticulous musician, I kind of just internalized how drums are supposed to feel. Okay.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. It's still definitely not the same, but I know where I like snares and toms and hi-hats and cymbals and kicks. So
yeah, you're able to get them right where you want them.
Yeah. I had a drummer playing the way I like drums to be for years.
That's so cool. Let's talk about you as a performer, as a musician, as a writer. What got you into writing, and what have been your inspirations? Because I feel like I can pick out some things, or at least styles. Maybe not particular artists, but styles.
Sure.
But you're certainly not locked into a particular area.
Yeah, I like a lot of things.
Yeah.
That have nothing to do with each other sometimes.
Yeah, no, I'm recalling our conversation that we had prior when last month. You actually mentioned when I introduced one of my songs, you was like, that kind of reminded you of the band Death.
Yeah.
And I remember,
Right.
And one, great band.
Okay, cool.
Two, it's one of those things where you're like, he likes Death? I mean, he turned me on to Death? That's kind of cool.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah, but anyway, that aside, who have inspired you as a writer and an artist?
First of all, it was definitely the Beatles. I know this is a very common story throughout generations, but the first time I heard them was when I knew I wanted to be a musician. And I took piano lessons as a little kid, but they made me want a guitar.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So definitely the Beatles. And that was how I started playing music. Like, they made me realize I wanted to participate. And then I also read the credits and saw that they were composing their own music. So it was like, you can't play covers if you're going to be cool. You got to have your own stuff.
Well, I started playing covers.
Yeah. Well, that's how you learn.
Yeah.
But that was always the goal.
Yeah.
It was always
exactly.
like, I want to be like them, so I got to have my own songs.
Yeah.
Because they have their own songs.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah, that was the kid logic, or the teen logic.
No, but that's perfect logic. I mean, outside of the fact that, yes, I mean, the Beatles obviously did cover, like, their early stuff.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of covers.
They're all cover albums.
Yeah, they're all cover albums. Maybe that's why I'm not as big of a fan of early Beatles stuff as I am of later Beatles stuff.
Yeah, there was a time in music. I'm a big fan of, like, the 40s and 50s.
Oh, really?
Just, like, recorded music. And songs weren't really personal statements back then. They were in, like, to the singers who were performing them.
Sure.
But there's, like, a song called I'll Be Seeing You that Billie Holiday has a version of that's pretty famous, but that's a standard. You know, every performer who had a record deal back then was doing all the standards on every album and releasing 2 14-track albums a year.
Wow.
And a lot of overlap of material. And I think the Beatles kind of are the ones that changed that, but when they came out, they were in that.
Yeah, no, I hadn't thought about that. I mean, yeah, there were a lot of standards going on. I'm thinking of, you know, whether it's the Glenn Miller Orchestra, Count Basie, Frank Sinatra,
Right.
You know, yeah, Billie Holiday.
Yeah, if you look at Billie Holiday's like repertoire and Frank Sinatra's, the titles look very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but was that something that the Beatles necessarily changed? I mean, you know, I think of early American artists, rock artists, Elvis, obviously. I mean, obviously, he did covers.
I don't think Elvis has ever written a song.
You don't think he did?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't. I could be out on a limb here.
No, you could. I'm honestly not the biggest Elvis fan, so I'm not going to be like raining fire on you.
Someone might be.
Someone might be. I mean, like that Rollo Brand. I'm not going to listen to the rest of this interview because he dissed Elvis.
Yeah.
But but and for some reason I'm actually like blanking on a lot of names that I feel like were prominent in the 50s.
I know there's a big difference between popular music in the 50s and like jazz and blues and rock. Although jazz people were playing a lot of standards too.
Yes.
But a lot of the blues,
jazzed up.
A lot of the blues that came out then does seem like it's really personal. And it almost, I know there were a lot of covers of that, but you don't really hear rappers covering other rappers. And it seems like there might be a little bit of a connection between that.
That's an interesting perspective to bring because and that's not necessarily something that I had thought about. Let's dive into that a bit.
Yeah.
I think you're onto something, especially with blues artists, whether it's Robert Johnson, Lightning Hopkins. I mean, are you talking about like that?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah.
That there may have been some overlap in some of the songs that they did, because I have a feeling that there was.
Well, there are definitely motifs.
There were
There's
motifs, and there weren't necessarily public domain issues.
Right. And
But-
some of the stuff that people incorporated in a lot of that stuff sounds like nursery rhymes. Just like there will be a line here and there, or like I don't know the word, but a series of lines that maybe was just something in the air that people would sing to themselves while walking down the street that they incorporated into whatever they wanted to say in the song they wrote.
But there was, even if they did happen to cover each other's material, goodness knows Robert Johnson's been covered a lot. But everyone who seemed to cover Robert Johnson did it with, like, you could feel their pain in his music.
Yeah.
Much different than, say, again, Billie Holiday and Frank Sinatra covering the same number.
Right.
I mean, when Frank would do a song, it was just, it was about Frank. There was no necessarily like Frank is feeling a particular way.
Right.
Maybe he did when he sang "Send in the Clowns," but at the end of the day, it was about Frank.
Sure.
And the orchestra was secondary.
Right. Yeah, he's the focal point.
He was absolutely the focal point.
I might be thinking more from like a recording perspective than a writing perspective.
Okay.
Because
Let's talk about that more then.
Well, yeah. I mean, if people are covering Robert Johnson, they're using his material. It might sound nothing like what he did, but it's still great music a lot of times if it's done right. I guess with the maybe things just need a few decades to become standards. It's just you don't really see that with rap the same way. You don't hear or you wouldn't even want to hear Travis Scott do an Old Dirty Bastard verse.
No,
in the same way. Those things seem very tailored to the performer.
But they do sample each other now.
Right.
So how do you? I mean, is that just another way of making a song a standard? You think?
Maybe.
Like within the hip hop realm, that because there is a lot of sampling going on.
Yeah, Dr. Dre's got that Biggie hook on the one of the songs on the Chronic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I'm trying to think of some. Actually, there was a song that my kids played the other day, and I was like, that's not their song, right? But yeah. I have to say,
we were talking about Kate Bush earlier.
Yeah, no, exactly, kind of along those same lines. But I'm not necessarily thinking of like the Pixies AirPods commercial. But it's more like, I guess, some of my favorite reels, Instagram reels or TikToks, is actually people who will take a song back to its originality. It'll be like, oh, this, or Gen Z person knows the song this way, but the millennial knows it this way, but the Gen Xer knows it this way, but the boomer knows it this way.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is has come from the hip hop and rap era, and
recontextualizing.
Yeah, the recontextualizing it. So, in a sense, beats themselves have kind of become a new form of standard. Would you say?
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that. You're kind of making me think here.
Yeah, it's interesting because that's not the same as songwriting. But
no, it's
I'm not. Yeah, it's equally cool.
No, it's equal. Yeah, it's equally cool. I mean, it's so you're not working with words. You're working with
sound.
You're working with sound. No, absolutely.
So
but
there's
still writing involved there.
Yeah, but what we're describing is like if you want the sound of a breakbeat from a 70s funk record.
Yeah.
That might be what the standard is, and not the melody or the lyrics that were sung by different performers.
No, I'm following with you. Yeah. No, it's funny. So one of my favorite YouTube channels to watch. I'm not a big person on reaction channels, or all the reaction videos.
Yeah,
but there is one channel that I do watch just because the guys are incredible who do the reactions. And the channel is called Lost in Vegas, and they were doing a Talking Heads reaction, and one of the George, it's two guys named George and Ryan. George was like, wait a minute, I recognize this beat. And he recognized it from...
Selena Gomez?
No.
Oh.
It was an Underground Dre's tune. No, Underground Jay-Z tune.
Okay.
And before he made it big, it was an underground tune that he knew. And he pulled it up and he started playing it. And he had just sped up the rhythm that they had done in the Talking Heads tune.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Do you remember what the song was?
It was... I don't remember the Jay-Z tune.
No, I mean the Talking Heads song.
Talking Heads. It was... It's the one that everyone knows. This is not
Psycho
My
Killer?
Beautiful House.
Oh, Once in a Lifetime.
Yeah, Once in a Lifetime.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I was blanking on it, but it was.
Yeah, I love that song.
No, it's a great song, but it was a rhythm in that song that Jay-Z sampled, and it was fascinating that he was able to pick that out, and he's listening to Once in a Lifetime for the very first time, but he already has a connection to it.
Right. So yeah, textures are the new standard.
Yeah, that's. I think that's kind of what's happening, and it's fascinating. I hadn't necessarily thought of it that way before. Thinking back to how people did covers or how they experimented with songs, but it was still just basically, if it was Count Basie or Sinatra, it was a matter of the orchestral arrangement. It wasn't necessarily that it was a completely different song, or Rosemary Clooney's Nelson Riddle cover or version versus Frank Sinatra's Nelson Riddle version. And now I'm pulling out names out of my hat from what I remember growing up with.
Yeah, you lost me.
Sorry. For those of you who are too young to know this, Frank Sinatra, he had his own arranger, and it was Nelson Riddle. And Rosemary Clooney, who is George Clooney's aunt, great aunt. She's dead. Doesn't matter. But when she did music, she actually did an album with Nelson Riddle as an arranger, and I mean you can tell Nelson Riddle has his own style, and it's pretty amazing. But it was Sinatra style. Basically it was Rosemary Clooney doing Sinatra stuff.
Okay.
But I think of it, just the way doing it these days, it would be interesting to hear, just to switch it up, if Travis Scott did an old Dirty Bastard lyric.
Yeah.
Because I think that would totally blow people's minds. They wouldn't expect it. But picking up a beat, they might.
Right.
But
there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
I think ODB has a feature on the new SZA album.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, they used some lyrics that had been recorded but not released for a song. That's my understanding.
I was gonna say, because he's dead too, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. But he's making an appearance.
He was very old.
Well, he was very old. That's a lame joke, but it got me laughing. Well, this is a fascinating conversation, and it's kind of giving me a whole different perspective on the concept of standard.
Yeah.
And how that...
Basically, there's no standard.
No, there is no standard, but there is a standard, kind of.
Yeah.
There's
patterns.
Yes, that's what's developed. And that's fascinating to me, how music can continue to morph in ways that we may not necessarily expect. So, how do you work this into your production? Do you do a lot of samples?
I don't do a lot of samples, but I do a lot of referencing.
Okay. Let's talk about that for a bit.
Yeah. Sometimes things are very clear about what an idea needs. Like, obviously certain things need drums.
Yeah.
And obviously some things don't. But sometimes you don't know what kind of drums it would need. So knowing what a breakbeat sounds like, or knowing what an 808 drum machine sounds like, in different contexts, gives you options to try out. And then if something sticks, I usually just leave it alone and keep building on it. And then if something else gets stuck down the road, I might replace it with something else and see if that solves it. But there's a lot of that sort of thing going on.
Are you talking about how you work with your own music or work with other people's music as well?
That's with everything.
Okay.
Same process.
Oh, that's so cool. I mean, I love the concept of production. It is far too complicated for me to understand, I think, at the end of the day, and figure out all the buttons and bells and whistles.
That's more engineering. Production, to me, is like what sounds cool with what.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
all the technical stuff, I have to turn off my producing brain to be able to do anything with Pro Tools or with, different pedals or things like that.
Sure. What has been your favorite thing to work on so far? I mean, how long have you been in the production realm? But in that, what has been your favorite thing to work on? First, of yours, and then of someone else's.
I had a song that I recorded an acoustic version of today called "Last Forever," and I started the beat for that song in December of 2017.
No way.
I was living in Philadelphia, and I finished that song and released it spring of 2022.
Oh, wow, that had a 5-year germination.
And I wasn't working on it constantly, but
but
every 3 or 4 months I'd go back to it and spend a couple of days just toying around with it, and it never came together until then. And I'm really happy with the way the recorded version came out. It's on an EP I released called "Like a Match."
Yes, that came out in 2022. Yeah. That's a great EP, actually.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's go over there. I encourage everybody to check it out. I mean, obviously, I don't have people on here that I don't want you to check out. So check out Rollo Brand, and check out the Like a Match EP. So then what has been one of your favorite projects to work on?
Producing other artists has only been, I've only really been in that in depth for 3 or 4 months.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a new thing.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know how easy making music could be. When somebody else does 95% of the work and then they just bring it in to finish, it's a lot more fun.
Yeah, no. I hear you. So what got you into this realm then? If it's only been going on for 3 to 4 months,
well, I was always trying.
Oh, you were?
I just wasn't any good. Yeah, you can't get people with great material to have crappy sessions. They're just not going to do it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Well, I think we've come to the point where I want to show our listeners the talent that you have as a musician. We've been talking about your talent as a producer and really kind of diving into what is a standard now these days. That's been a fun part of this conversation.
Yeah.
That really kind of blew my mind. I got to be honest, because I hadn't thought of anything like that in that way. But you're going to be performing 2 songs for us. What songs are they?
I'm going to do a song called "Wish I Was Closer," which was a single I put out last summer, and a song called "Last Forever," which is the one I just mentioned.
Okay, excellent. We'll talk about those songs when we come back. And so stick around. Rollo Brand is going to be performing for us a couple of songs, and they're trust me, you're going to want to hear these. So stick around. We'll be right back.
This is called "Wish I Was Closer."
I wish I was closer, but I'm too far away for you to come over. I'm a stranger, and this place is unfamiliar. At least you're on my mind. It's an even trade. Well, the only things between us are distance and our pride. Try hard to keep our affection flowing. We get so caught up in the moment, history we cannot hide. Reminding me when I can see the signs they're showing. I'm showing you what I've been thinking, even though it's hard to make it clear. Whoa, I had to go, though you don't understand it. But despite it all, I wish you were here. The future looks uncertain, but it's always worth a try. Don't be sad, I know our roots are growing. We get so caught up in the moment, history we can't deny. Reminding me when I can see the signs they're showing. I'm showing. So don't forget to tell me every time I cross your mind. Even though we don't know where we're going, we get so caught up in the moment, but history won't let us hide. Reminding me when I can see the signs they're showing. I'm showing you. I'm showing you. I'm showing you. All right. This is called Last Forever. It's so easy to see it when everything you do and you say makes me believe in what we promised each other to keep hope alive. If I let you convince me to trust in every word that you say, please don't be careless with the love that I offer somewhere down the line. I've been through this before, but I feel something new this time. I never thought that I would find a feeling so deep, too great to measure. I think it might last forever, but what do I know? Do you remember the mornings? Vapor trails divide in the sky. I may not be the kind of person you hope to find, but are you willing to take your chances? Thought I'd forgotten the feeling, lost in when I needed it most, but you traced the outline of the space that I need to fill. Guess I knew from the start to keep it close. I won't be coming back. I try to tell myself a lie. Oh, I never thought that I would find a feeling so deep, too great to measure. I think it might last forever, but what do I know? Yeah, I can't believe that you can be mistaken. It may be drastic, but I thought it through. I just wanna be with you. Couldn't run, you set my heart on fire. I'm burning till the end of time. Oh, I never thought that I would find a feeling so deep, too great to measure. Oh, I think it might last forever, but what do I know? What do I know? What do I know? What do I know? Oh.
And we are back with Rollo Brand. We just heard a couple of great songs. Rollo, let's talk about them real quick. The first song you performed was...
It's called Wish I Was Closer.
Wish I Was Closer. Tell us about that. That was a single that you released last summer?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a great song.
Thank you. Yeah, that one is one I wrote to a beat.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's hard to remember because all these sessions blend together.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the kind of person who can start a song and then finish it without starting a million other songs.
Really?
So I don't really remember kind of the way things went. But I think with that one, I did the drums first on the recorded version.
Mm-hmm.
And then wrote the words and melody and chords with an acoustic guitar to those drums.
Mm-hmm.
And that took 5 months to produce.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
On and off. But
no, sure.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself starting projects, like multiple projects at the same time?
Yeah, I juggle a lot of songs.
Okay.
And they all, I never know if I'm making progress because sometimes I'll do something I think a song needs, and that'll make something I already did sound wrong.
Oh no. That seems to almost
It doesn't make any sense
Yeah.
how soon a song is or how far out a song is going to be finished.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to like put a time frame on things that aren't completely wrapped up.
So how long? I've seen that you've released a number of singles. You have the one EP, but I mean, is that the only like album that you have?
It's the only thing that's out. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, but the rest is. So, do you find it's easier to work that way for you? I mean, just because you have so many things going on all at once.
I think the way people seem to be listening to music, the songs that are kind of engaging from the first note to the last note feel like they should be singles because, they don't need to be in the context of a bunch of other songs to make sense. Mm-hmm. They stand on their own. So that's what dictates that decision. Mm-hmm. And obviously there are albums that have singles on them. So if I put out an album, some of them might be there. Mm-hmm. They might not. I don't know yet.
Yeah, no, that's what I've noticed. It was interesting looking at the EP itself and being like, I wonder if any of those...
So what went on the EP was songs I felt needed to have other songs to help them out. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of very weird ideas. And sometimes those can be distracting if they're just totally out of the blue. Mm-hmm. But if I get a song like the recorded version of Last Forever, where there's kind of a weird drum beat with a strange theremin spacey sound going, that can make more sense with another kind of crazy weird song like an 808 country song.
Yeah.
As opposed to a song like Wish I Was Closer, where it's got a great groove and great bass and words and vocals. And
let's talk about the words a bit. So how do you, when you're writing a song to beats, how do you write lyrically to that? I mean, to me, that seems like something that's much more seen more in the hip hop realm.
Well, yeah. I kind of got that trick from David Byrne.
Okay.
You kind of just sing in Sims language until words form.
Sims language?
Yeah.
Forgive me, I don't know the game.
It's not.
I mean, I know the game, but I don't know. I've never played it.
Yeah. Mouth noises.
Okay.
There are syllables, but it's not a real language.
Okay. No, I follow. Yes.
Yeah, and you can find videos of David Byrne doing this into a tape recorder on YouTube if you really want to know.
Really?
Yeah.
That's kind of funny.
It's not glamorous.
No, it doesn't sound like it, but I mean, it's like...
But when you get a couple lines, some of those lines start ideas for other ones that are connected to them, and then it sort of forms. It's like, oh, I know what the song's about after having 3 lines, so how do I fill in the blanks?
Interesting. So do you write from... like a personal space, or do you just write according to what the beat is giving you?
Everything that I've finished and released did come from a personal place, but sometimes it made more sense to sing things that I happen to other people from my own perspective.
Sure. No,
so
yeah.
It's not like I'm the narrator in most of my songs.
Okay.
But they're not all true to life.
Yeah. No, I'm following. I mean, you will have some songwriters who are autobiographical, and you will have some that are just far more along the lines of, I'm going to tell you someone else's story from my perspective. So that makes sense. Or I will tell you my story, but you won't know it's my story because I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that you know it's not, or that it's not
confusing.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, exactly. And there's beauty in all of that.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of curious because
you've got that song, "Time Is Made of Waiting."
Yeah, Remains of Time.
Remains of Time.
Yeah.
But that line, like that has a whole, that could have 10 songs attached to it.
It could.
And who knows if that's coming from? I know you said it was from the perspective of a child.
Yes. A conversation with a
child, but it's just you get a line like that, and the song kind of writes itself.
No, yeah.
I don't know if I have anything that is a line quite that good.
Well, you need a 7-year-old to kind of give you somebody that is, that just says, or maybe she was 5, I can't remember. But you just need someone who, that thinks that kind of out there.
Yeah, I don't have any little cousins or anything, and they don't like it when I hang outside the elementary school.
It's probably for a good reason. Yeah.
I'm glad they're cautious. Yeah,
no, that probably is. That's definitely a good thing. And then Last Forever. You said that you just also finished recording another version of that song today.
Yeah.
One, what went into the first recording of Last Forever, and 2, why did you re-record it?
Well, the first recording started as a beat. That was about 5 or 6 years ago, and
oh yes,
I go through these phases where I don't know what I want to make, so I just make a bunch of instrumentals or a bunch of sketches, or sometimes it's acoustic guitar, sometimes it's a beat, sometimes it's just like a synth patch or a piano part.
Yeah,
just try to just make a bunch of stuff, and then go through and listen to whatever's my favorite and use those to move forward.
Okay.
So this song kind of started that way.
Okay.
Had like 20 beats in a week.
Oh, wow.
And then just took my favorite. And I didn't get any lyrics for that for 3 years.
No, I definitely track with that.
Yeah, I had kind of a rough melody, but tried the Sims language technique and didn't get anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get that. My song Another Story was a song, a tune without words for about 15 years, 15, 16 years.
Yeah.
before it ever had anything. So I totally get that. Just being like, you got something.
Yeah.
You just don't know what you're going to do with it. I mean, with that song, it was like,
Yeah.
I never could figure out what I wanted to do with it.
Right.
But I just kept on playing it.
Yeah, and that's kind of how it worked out, and it happened to just take 6 years.
Yeah. So be it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. And so you re-recorded it acoustically?
Yeah.
Is that the deal?
Right here at Engine Room Studios.
Yes, because we are here. That's where you did record it. But you actually said you worked on it. Is that the one that you were? I mean, you were working prior to actually coming here and recording it.
Well, I've been playing that one live acoustically for a while.
Okay.
And I had to arrange a part that still felt as good as the recorded version because that's how it was made, but works without tracks. I really don't like performing to tracks because you're locked into a tempo and a key.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're playing a particular room that doesn't work in, you just have to like bite the bullet and go through it, and it might not work out as well as if you could adjust on the fly.
Mm-hmm. No, I hear you. And I feel like we kind of did that to you when you performed at the Porter Books and Bread event, Coffee, Comedy, and Music, where you had come in prepared to play something on electric.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't working out.
Yeah.
And you had to switch on the fly.
Right. That happens every gig I do.
Really?
Something unexpected just throws a wrench into things. It's part of the fun.
So it is part of the fun, and I assume that if this is happening to you, almost a lot, that means you're playing out a lot.
Yeah.
So you have the Red Door Cafe.
Yep, the Red Door Cafe.
Every Sunday. And now you said also earlier off air that you're starting to do this every Thursday now.
We're doing a Thursday evening like acoustic wine and chocolate party.
Ooh, fancy.
And there will be 2 or 3 performers every Thursday night at the Red Door, which is part of the Cyrus Place. Mm-hmm. And we've got one this Thursday with Remington Hill, who's...
Oh, yes. He recently opened for Arcelia Kent.
Yep, and Arcelia Kent will be there, too.
Oh, fantastic. So she's doing that event.
She is.
Okay, she mentioned that last week.
Yeah.
Okay. That's very cool. Arcelia is great.
Yeah.
And, so what else do you have cooking? Because it seems like, honestly, you're performing quite a bit.
Well, I'm going to try to get some of these songs that I've been working on with these other artists out, wrapped up and released, so that everybody can go and hear what we've been doing. Mm-hmm. Nothing's out yet.
No. Well, I mean, your solo stuff. So would these be more like
Right.
collabs that you're working on?
Yeah, what I'm talking about now is the productions for other artists.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then I'm juggling about 15 solo tracks, so I'm not sure which one's coming out next, but it will be soon.
Oh, man. You got a lot going on. I mean, with you and with other individuals. I mean, that's exciting. I mean,
yeah, it's the best.
So now most people, who seem to be in this in the world of music, especially on the local scene, they have what they consider their day job, the stuff that brings in the money. Are you doing music full time?
No, I'm a barista.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. No, I mean, we all got to do something,
Right.
Yeah,
I tried to have the studio in my car, but it you can't get much work done.
No. But you say you work out of your house, like as the studio space goes. So tell me about your studio setup and what does that look like? When people come over and start working on tracks with you.
Well, I'm glad you asked.
All right.
I've got a little cave at the back of my shotgun duplex. All the heavy, like old school paisley blankets over the windows. It's like
nice.
When you turn all the lights off, it's pitch black in there.
Yeah.
A bunch of different lamps from different eras.
Oh, you are creating a vibe.
Yeah. Sometimes you have them all on at once. Sometimes you just have one on. Depends on the song.
It does depend on the song. No, you are creating a vibe for sure. That's very cool.
Yep. It's pretty cramped, but I can do everything except live drums.
Yeah. And so if people are listening to this, and they're like, this guy seems pretty cool. Maybe I'd like him to check out my stuff and see if we can do something together. How would people get a hold of you?
Well, on the local scene, Instagram DMs have been pretty helpful.
Okay.
My Instagram is at Rollo_Brand.
Mm-hmm.
It's not spelled like the candy.
No, that is that, and that's Rollo for sure.
Yeah, there's 2 L's. ROLLO.
Okay.
That works, and there's an email and all that stuff there if anybody wants to reach me from there.
Sure. Cool.
That's a long, convoluted email address. So
yeah. Well, it's just it's on the Instagram.
DM me and I'll mail you a business card.
There you go. That works. So I'm going to ask you what I always ask all of my guests. Is there anything that we've missed?
No.
No? You think we've covered everything?
That has been my entire life.
Now I know you're being sarcastic.
It's a parody. It's not sarcasm.
There you go. Well, I know we've been talking a lot about your work as a producer, but I would be remiss if I didn't talk about our work here at the Engine Room Recording Company. Because the Engine Room Recording Company, as soon as I pull this up, because I seem to have lost it, there it is. They are located in Broad Ripple Village, and they are just north of downtown Indianapolis, and they specialize in making your projects go. So does Rollo. But anyway. At the Engine Room, podcasters, bands, audiobookers, rappers, singers, songwriters, and everyone in between, the Engine Room Recording Company has the experience, the engineers, and the equipment, as well as the environment to fuel your projects. Check out Broad Ripple's recording studio by visiting for more information on their services, artists they recorded, and gear they have at engineroomrecordingcompany.com. And be sure to visit their Instagram page by searching up at Engine Room Recording Company. Rollo, I really do appreciate you taking the time to be on here. Thank you for the music that you have provided for us this evening and that you are providing the world. People can stream your music on Spotify. They can stream it on Apple, wherever you happen to...
wherever you do your streaming.
And one place you should check out Rollo is his YouTube page. Rollo has a number of covers.
Yeah, that's right. I've been recording videos of the live songs I cover acoustically.
Yes. But you've also had some of your Red Cafe sessions on there as well.
Yep. There's some actual live videos. There's some home sessions. But yeah, if you like acoustic renditions of songs
Mm-hmm. That's right.
That's where to find them. They're not on Spotify.
No, they're not. That's right.
Can't afford that.
Can't afford that. Nope. And he does a killer Pixies cover. Just saying. All right. Rollo, thank you so much for being on the show this week.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Next week we'll return when my guest will be Joe Shelton, and I'm excited to have him on the show. He's got some exciting things going on, especially over in Greenfield and the H.J. Ricks Center. So tune in next week for that. Again, my guest this week has been Rollo Brand, and we will be back next week. Bye.